And now, get ready to feel some late night morning wood. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Hey there.
Wow. Okay. This is, I've been very nervous leading up to this moment, man. I got to admit, this is a big deal for me. Nice.
Where are you? Are you like subterranean survivalist there? I mean, you look like you're...
Yeah, I don't have much lighting in my place. But what I could do, it kind of was just messing with it. So, plus the show's called Late Night Morning Woods, so I figured I'd keep it kind of dark in here, you know, fit the theme. But yeah, so obviously, you know, the podcast or show or whatever it is about Beavis and Butt-Head, and you did the first 29 episodes of the show?
We did we essentially did the first season.
Yes.
There were some episodes that were done by a place in LA. Can't remember the name of it. But I think we did all but like 2 episodes.
Well, obviously you didn't do the 2 liquid television episodes.
Right, those were Mike's. Those are what they showed us.
Exactly.
And well, first of all, tell me how you guys kind of got your hands dirty with all this stuff. How did you guys evolve into this kind of holding place for Beavis and Butt-Head?
You mean like my collection or museum, or are you talking
Well, in general, it seems like you guys are becoming the go-to guys. You've held out longest. You've kind of kept the whole thing going, throughout.
What a compliment. I guess I started watching the show when I know. Yeah. To me it is.
At best, yeah.
I've been obsessed since I was 5. I've been collecting since I was 5. We've talked briefly years ago. I have the world's largest collection of memorabilia for the show, on top of lots of production use stuff and whatnot. And then I created the fan community on Facebook, which is Beavis and Butt-Head do MySpace. And I think that just kind of correlated like a lot of the diehards, because and a lot of casuals too, but I think there's 2 types of Beavis and Butt-Head fans. There's probably always 2 types of fans, but there's like the commons who honestly probably aren't overtly familiar with your era because your era hasn't been put on DVD. So I assume a lot of those people, the last time they saw them is when they aired. And then there's the diehard fans who love the entire show, but I think the thing that brings us together hardest is your era, because there's so much mystique. There was so much controversy. It's kind of almost intentionally buried outside of maybe 4 or 5 of the episodes. I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about.
Probably.
No Laughing, Washing the Dog. Those ones are all on DVD and whatnot. But then you have the episodes like Way Down Mexico Way, or the one where they shoot down a plane, or huff stove gas at Stewart's. Those have never been preserved on DVD. So about 2 decades ago,
put on VHS.
They were in other countries that weren't in America. Oddly enough, in fact, in the UK and Australia, there was a VHS called Too Dumb for TV, which is pretty much just a compilation of all of your episodes. And we didn't get that over here, and it was quite a rarity for me to even get, honestly. It seems like kind of a limited release or something like that. So I think us diehards, we started a preservation project like 20 years ago called the King Turd Collection, because a lot of the music videos are missing as well. There was just a lot of this show missing in general.
If there's anything that I find that I take for granted, but now I have to remind myself that I shouldn't, is that most people don't understand the original context of Beavis and Butt-Head, which is they watched the music videos and shit on the music videos, and the music videos were an integral, woven part of the show. And even though you had that could stand up alone on its the story that they had going on. The cutaways to the videos were what made the show hilarious, because especially they were not only goofing on the music videos, they were goofing on MTV, period.
Yeah, it was like poking fun at the network they were literally on. I don't even know if that had been done prior. I don't even know if The Simpsons started doing that yet.
I don't think there was any, it hadn't been done prior because the culture of music videos hadn't been around long enough. And so it was hilarious for that reason. And once it hit big.
Yes.
Because it not only hit big because you had a show that was animated that no one had really never, ever seen the likes of before. I mean, this Beavis and Butt-Head, I've always said, looked like one of the things that made it so successful is that it looked like they did the cartoon.
Yeah,
it looked
yeah.
like the lines on the inside of the math books. It looked like, you know, the sense of humor was as base as you could possibly get, and everyone knew a Beavis and Butt-Head.
Yes.
Has known a Beavis and Butt-Head. So, but there hadn't been anything really like that, and it was a perfect thing for animation, because animation was at a point where it was making a transition from, you know, the inane, lethal Ducks and Bunnies 70s Saturday morning shit to now all of us had come of age and wanted to see animation used in a manner that we were going to be able to dig.
Yeah.
And between Beavis, between The Simpsons, South Park, you know, and really MTV, very responsible for, you know, Liquid TV, where Beavis premiered.
Yes.
MTV's whole essence was, yeah, remember you grew up with this stuff. Well, it's not the same anymore. Now, just with their 10-second IDs.
Yeah. All the bumper things. Those were.
Yeah. I mean, those really launched the whole new kind of renaissance of animation. And Beavis was like this thesis that came at the end of MTV's stuff that kind of put it all together. And it was great. And that was what was excited me about becoming a part of, was, wow, you know, this is crazy. You know, no one's ever seen anything like this.
And I think that's kind of maybe what scared people in the beginning, because you think about cartoons up to that point, and I feel like Beavis and Butt-Head was the first one that not only they were drawn like humans, but they were watching the same channel that you were watching them on. And I think the episodes that you guys worked on especially were very... like I said, the stuff I mentioned earlier, the paint thinner and stuff. And after the controversy, the show really became different from the episodes you worked on. And I think that's why us diehard fans are really obsessed with your era as well, because it was really more of a, what can we get away with? And we're showing two teenage boys who, even though they're obnoxiously ugly in character or style, they were humans. And I think parents are tuning in and being like, well, this is the easiest thing my kid could ever want to imitate.
Well, the other thing they did that was interesting is they aired it at a time
at 7:00. Yeah.
That was accessible to an audience that was not necessarily the audience that you wanted to see the show. However, it's what caused the controversy. It was caused the focus. It's what caused the hoopla. So, you know, soon thereafter, they put it later.
Yeah, it went to 11:30. And what's interesting, too, is that after that, the show changed, because by today's standards, Beavis and Butt-Head isn't really vulgar. But the episodes you guys did still are in a lot of ways. And ironically, those are the ones that were on at 7:00.
I don't think, look, the way the thing started was they showed Mike's films on Liquid Television. And they evidently got an incredible response to them.
Yeah, yeah.
They had shown on the Spike and Mike festivals and so forth, but now by showing it on Liquid TV, it gained a nationwide audience,
Yeah.
which gave it this kind of stamp of validity that, that's all it needed to just get the exposure. So they evidently did some focus group testing.
Yes, I've seen footage of it even. Yeah.
And they found that it was kind of like a Three Stooges thing where the folks who liked it were usually guys.
Yeah. Go figure.
Except in New Jersey.
Yeah.
New Jersey,
yeah, right.
Everybody liked it.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the water table or,
No, I've seen the footage. Those chicks were all about it.
Beer pants, but yeah. So I had been doing and working with MTV on the things like the 10-second bumpers before we even opened our studio, before my wife Patrice and I opened the studio.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Now 30 years ago. We'd had a pre-existing relationship with the MTV people, from Marcy Brofman to Abby Turkuli, and had seen these people starting to rise up. So when the Beavis thing hit, they approached us and asked us if we'd be interested. They showed us, Mike's films, and they said, "What about this? What about this being made into a series?" And our rep, who was also friends with Abby and people over at MTV, a guy named Andy Arkin, we all sat down and watched these cartoons and hadn't seen anything like this before. And it was exciting because it was MTV. It was exciting because this was a style that really hadn't been explored in animation as far as I was concerned. And by this time we had opened our studio. And the reason for opening our studio was I wanted to take forms of animation that hadn't been done before and play with them.
Oh.
So it was like, wow. It also, this was in 92.
Okay.
It also was in sync with us having formed a relationship and friendship with a guy named John Whitney Jr. on the West Coast, whose dad was a pioneer in computer animation. John Whitney Jr., his son, John Whitney Sr. was the dad. John Whitney Jr. had just started getting into this whole idea of paperless animation and computer animation.
Oh, okay.
And not having to use cells and paint and all this other stuff. And so after seeing the Beavis films at MTV, Andy and I started talking with John and saying, well, what if, basically you see a lot of them sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
You see them walking down the street. It's not by any means full animation. It's even a new sort of limited animation. What if we took this dumb stuff and kind of built up a library so that you change the backgrounds, but the animation is the same? That dumbness seems like it could coexist with the whole animal very nicely.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be compromising anything. As a matter of fact, we'd probably be doing it even more justice and giving it that feeling that Beavis and Butthead had made the cartoon themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot of recycled animation in there.
It makes it awkward. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you stupid. And
yes.
Those are all the things that the rest of the show does too. So we proposed to MTV, look, let's talk about this, but let's talk about working with John and using his proprietary software that's in development as we're, talking about this. And long story short, we pulled it all together. By the end of middle end of November of 92, excuse me, we pulled the deal together. And once they announced that we were going to be doing this, that's when I got a call from the animation industry is probably one of the most incestuous industries in the world. Everybody knows everybody else.
Okay.
And so I start getting calls from Colossal and all these other studios saying, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" They've been pitching that thing around for months. Basically, I came to realize we were the only studio that were stupid enough to really give this actual thought, because it wasn't going to be a big moneymaker. It wasn't something that, if you had any experience in series production, was really going to be an easy task, because Mike wasn't a filmmaker. Mike wasn't Mike Judge yet.
Exactly. Yes.
Moved him from probably, I think it was Austin.
Yes.
They moved him to Port Chester, that is about a stone's throw from our studio in White Plains, New York, which is about 25 miles north of the city. And he and his family, picked up, moved to Port Chester. Wow. He'd come here in the morning and talk about models and talk about storyboards. And then he'd go into the city and he'd do, 8/10 of the voices himself. Then he'd come home to Port Chester, and then they'd go into MTV for storyboard meetings with our animators and so forth.
Wow.
So, we started working on it in November of '92. We finished last episode, I think it was the end of May in '92.
Now, is that the just the first 3 that aired that they kept kind of looping over and over again?
That's the whole series.
Oh, really?
That's the whole season.
Wow. Okay.
So we start in November. We start getting scripts. I couldn't get a sign off on the model sheets until April, because we were just working on the thing as it was forming. And by the time everything came together and we had everything ready to go responsibly, that's when we said, I think we got to go. I think it's time. I think we got to go away now.
And what was the reason? Just because I know that you went from like 4 people to 60 to be able to do this and stuff. Is it just because you thought you guys took on something that obviously by the time you quit, you had seen that the show was becoming a huge success? What was the real, if you could elaborate?
We had never done a series before.
Okay. Yeah.
MTV had never done a series before.
Yes.
So I figured, and we all figured on this end, okay, so we'll figure out how to do this thing together, and we'll see. But I think as the show started to gain popularity, started to become important.
Yeah.
In conjunction with Mike always wanted the show, I think, I didn't find this out until after reading interviews with him later, years later. He had aspirations for the structure and animation.
Yes, he did, yes.
That was much more traditional and formed fully than we ever wanted it to be. I mean, if there was anything that I did at the beginning of the series with regularity more than anything else was going down to the production room, which was 4 floors below where the studio was on top of the building. And desperately try to get everyone to unlearn all the things that they had learned.
Yeah, yeah.
So that it didn't look, like the same artists who worked on Doug.
Exactly, yes, or Hanna-Barbera or anything like that.
Yeah, or hands especially. If you're an animator, if you're a journeyman, the first thing you do is you learn how to draw hands so that you can just throw them in with, as little effort as possible because they're very expressive. They're very important.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. It's
Butthead, on the other hand, Beavis and Butthead didn't really have hands or arms. They were just these kind of thalidomide appendages that, when they were walking, they were just these little kind of like things. Yeah. They were doing air guitar, then all of a sudden they were drawn, like Da Vinci, which is what any stupid, idiot, non-professional artist, cartoonist would do.
Yes.
No consistency. So I love that. And I think I came to find that the people, Mike and the people at MTV, I don't think they like that sort of inconsistency. I thought it was something that really added something really cool and something edgy and something, what the hell is that sort of aspect of the show?
I think I heard someone once say that it looked like a serial killer drew those early episodes.
Yeah. And that was, I think, something that, first of all, that I thought animation really needed. In general, it needed that kind of irresponsible, what the hell sort of thing that was going to make it stand out. And the other thing, here, the way the production worked was we would do all the animation on paper.
Yes, I've seen some of those, actually.
The backgrounds were done...
colored pencil, can I guess?
With pastel and
okay.
And stuff like that, chalk. We'd ship all that stuff to what was then called U.S. Animation in North Hollywood by FedEx. They would scan all the drawings. Okay. They would composite all the animation together, and then they would color it digitally, and then composite it all on videotape, and then they'd send the tapes back. We couldn't even transmit things.
Okay, that's awesome, because that's something I've emailed you a few times over the years. I didn't know if you ever remembered, but the one time you did tell me that it wasn't cell animated, and you said that it was digital animated. And obviously the digital animation in 1992-93 is not the same as what we're working with today. So what you're saying is that they were hand-drawn, but then they would be scanned in.
They were digitally colored, digitally composited. So the artwork, all the backgrounds were artwork. All the drawing was animated on paper with pen. Okay. But the coloring and then the combining of the arms and the mouths. We had a whole library system where the idea was 1/3 the way into the season, we should be doing more re-exposing of the existing stuff than doing new animation.
Okay.
There were always going to have to be elements, whether it was Burger World and they have costumes or, uniforms and
sure,
stuff like that. But the walk cycles, even if the clothes change, at least we've got the walk cycles done. We've got all the mouth action done. Yeah. We've got all of the expressions done. And all the other stuff becomes little elements that we could, we actually hired someone to be, we called them a librarian. Dean Leonard was called the librarian because he was the one who had to manage all the codes of all the various different levels.
Okay.
It was interesting because it was truly a combination of the old way of doing animation and the new way of doing animation.
Yes.
It hadn't made the transition completely to digital, but it also wasn't relying on all of the stuff that came in tow with conventional animation. Right. Then when we stopped doing it, then MTV went back to doing it traditionally.
Right.
Themselves.
Right. That I have animation cells from that first episode after you guys skadooted out of there. That is really interesting. So
we also, I think the first episode that aired in March.
Blood Drive?
It was Give Blood.
Give Blood, yes.
Give Blood.
Yes.
And that one, I think we even had to redo because there were things that Mike wasn't happy with. And by the time it had aired, there had also been significant upgrades in what John was doing with the software.
Yeah.
So I think we redid much of Give Blood. I can't remember what the second episode was.
Balloon or Sign Here, probably.
Yeah, but I think we had to do a little tweaking with that one. But then after that, we were able to just use the conventional. The whole thing, it really was interesting because it was constantly growing and evolving. And
yeah. And you can watch it as you watch it as a fan. And I think that really intrigued me as a kid, too, as your era is every episode seems a little bit more improved. I don't even know how to put it.
It's to be expected. I mean, if you look at the first Simpsons stuff that was done by Klasky Csupo, it was
but
very
you guys
long.
were doing it quicker than I think anyone ever did. You could really, like, it's like sitting there watching a tree grow for 6 months without looking away. It's really, it's a one-of-a-kind experience that I don't think any other show will probably ever do again or did before or has since. So by April, then you finally kind of got the approval on the character designs, but you already had a bunch of episodes finished by then, I take it.
I mean, if we finished by the end of May, we had more than half the season.
Exactly. So that's why, because there is kind of half of the episodes are very, very crude, and then some of them are a little more polished and like a good example, I would say, is the ones where they go to the drive-in, I think are probably the wildest that they looked throughout your era of the show. And then, like, washing the dog almost looks like what the show became. The hands are limp and whatnot, but the face designs and whatnot are what you would end up seeing on merchandise and whatnot. There's only a few items in my collection where they really took like the drive-in episode look and put it on merchandise and whatnot. And those are some of my favorite, honestly. I think a lot of us love the entire show, but we wished that there were more episodes from your era because it was so unique and, I don't know, really groundbreaking. It's not just a piece of history to the show. It's a really big piece of animation history. And I think
it really was an important phase that made complete sense that MTV would have been a part of.
Yeah.
It was great. It wasn't for us because, and I'm eternally grateful that as far as us and our genesis as a studio, I'm so happy it happened when it did so early on. And we'd only been around for a little over a year.
Yeah.
When the MTV opportunity came up, and we had been working with them after we opened the studio. We'd done more IDs, and the IDs that we had done had been very well received. And, but if it had happened later, I think it would not have been as much of a kind of a cold water challenge. It wouldn't have been as much of a pail of ice water in our face, because if it had felt like it was just normal for us to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, we probably would have felt that this was the way we should have kind of evolved. Whereas this happened early on. We ballooned up, as you said, from just a few people to becoming this huge studio that people were coming. It really was the largest studio in New York at that point, because people were coming in from Jersey City. There was this huge wealth of animation talent that was unused at that point in New York, because New York was not a series town anymore. It hadn't been probably since really the 60s. when there were still some old timers left over from Famous and Fleischer and all the other studios that were in New York. But by the time Beavis came around, most people worked in commercial studios, small boutique places, maybe some educational, Sesame Street, that kind of stuff. It was very kind of modest. So all of a sudden, everyone's working. And it was incredible because we came with this New York mentality, which wasn't the California mentality. California has been doing it for, a gazillion years, very structured, strong union, everything's organized. New York is like, we're the fucking bag people of the animation industry, just trying to make things work, which makes it really interesting because you're not following any rules because you don't even have any rules. Yeah. You're just, okay, we got this job. We got to make this happen. What's going to make it cool? What are we going to be proud of? And so, and then after Beavis, MTV immediately opened their own studio.
Yeah.
And literally, if you could hold a pencil in your hand, you had a job. Everybody awesome. Was working who had any talent or history, and it brought in a bunch of new people too. So that's a great thing. But we just are not, or never were, a series-based studio because we get all the fun out of the creative, juicy stuff. Yeah. The commercial happens right away, and you do the commercial, and then you go on to something else. With a series, it's the like manufacturing sort of thing that is.
If you guys would have kept on Beavis and Butt-Head, I take it would have been 4 years of not being able to focus on much else.
That's right. And the commercial industry is what allowed us to later, be able to do things like the Saturday Night Live stuff. And
yes, I love Ambiguously Gay Duo. That's
that's the stuff that I'm really proud of.
Yeah,
because it really, again, helped change people's perception of what animation was supposed to be. And so you
did quite a bit of that in general, in my opinion, dude.
yeah, and that's our credo, and that's what's been fantastic, and that's what's made it feel like you're not working at a job; you're just doing great stuff.
Well, I honestly, talking to you right now and hearing all this, man, it's a dream come true for me. So no, it really is.
More about you than it does about me.
There's so many questions that I could throw at you that you'd probably be like, dude, I don't remember and whatnot. Stuff that I've just wanted to talk to you about for years, because focusing on this era of Beavis and Butt-Head and whatnot, it's such a mystery. And there's not too many people affiliated with the show who even can answer a lot of these questions and whatnot, just like you telling me about the digital art and whatnot. Do you remember if there were any episodes that didn't even end up getting used or ideas? Everything stuck during that, I take it.
Yes. Because I think, a lot of the stuff, just like we were raw, we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing to run a production. We knew we were going to be able to do it. We knew... especially after hearing from everybody and their mother who'd already had contact with it and going, no way.
Yeah. You're like, dude, we're playing with fire.
Songs,
Yeah.
We were convinced, okay, well, we've agreed to do this. It's gonna be great, but we have no idea what's, coming at us. So let's just try to keep this as onward as we can, keep things moving forward as much as we can. Once they got their writers together, great people, and once the script started coming, there, as much as we may have wanted to receive something by a certain time, to be able to do the animation by a certain time, but so this was clearly going to be a case of, look, you're going to get it when you get it, and we just got to make all of this work. It was kind of exciting because you knew that it wasn't going to behave like it was supposed to behave, but you knew you were going to be able to get it done. And hopefully everyone was going to take it in stride and people were going to get together even closer because you've got to work together to make this all happen. Well, it started getting to the point where we weren't getting scripts necessarily as soon as we wanted them.
Okay.
But there wasn't the level of understanding that what it was that we had to do to get the animation going wasn't going to be as close to the delivery date as we wanted it to be.
Okay.
We barely made the first delivery of Give Blood.
Yeah.
And then having to redo the artwork gave us a hiccup.
Did it air that original way first?
As far as I remember, yeah.
So there are two versions of it. I don't think any of us have ever found it, as crazy as that is, because we've obsessively been like getting home recordings from people for 20 years trying to preserve every variant of this show.
Wrong then. I might be wrong. They may have seen it and decided that, no, we had to do that tweaking I was talking about earlier before it would go on the air. I can't remember that for sure.
That's okay.
I just remember that by the time they actually probably around April, maybe even March or April, MTV started talking about doing a feature.
Yeah, the movie, right.
And I remember thinking, I'm surprised they're even kind of mentioning this to us. Do they really want to do that?
They wanted you guys to do the movie.
They really want to talk to us about doing the movie?
I would have loved to have seen that movie.
Because there were so many. I would come in the morning, and this is when our fax machine was still on thermal printout on a roll. I'd come in, and I'd open the door to the studio, and I remember opening it very carefully and looking to see around in the message room if the paper had started to come out underneath the door yet from overnight faxes of all the revisions that had to take place.
Oh my God.
It was exciting, but it wasn't worth the amount of managerial effort that it was going to take. It made total sense for MTV to want to do that and then do it under their own roof.
Right. I mean, comparatively, you're saying that once you realized what you were fully working with and that other people have turned it down, that you were more or less playing with fire, pun intended. So how did you feel when the fire controversy happened and it was like, oh yeah, we really were playing with fire?
The fire controversy, there was the bowling ball off of the viaduct.
Yes.
There was Janet Reno, so on and so forth. It was kind of scary in a way. It was like, wow, this is crazy.
I don't think people who weren't there understand how big of a deal this was. I mean, it was unavoidable on the news. I was in school at that time. I remember wearing a shirt and being brought into the principal's office, and the principal obviously had not seen the show, being like, they kill animals, they set cats on fire and all this. And my mom's sitting there like, well, I watched the show with them, and,
right.
But it was when that happened in 1993, it was, if Beavis and Butt-Head was already on the map, then it went on the map as the most dangerous thing to ever come out of TV. And it was crazy.
Yeah, I think, though, even by that time, we weren't encouraged. We weren't encouraged by MTV to really promote our existence in the whole project either.
Right.
So it wasn't like we could do any publicity. And in fact, the release that MTV initially sent out had mentioned that, they were doing this Beavis and Butt-Head thing, and that an animation studio was doing it.
Yes, that's right. I remember hearing this.
And so we were kind of like, I guess that's got to be us, right?
Yeah, you're wondering if you still got the job here. Yeah.
And actually, yeah.
Ooh, do you got some? Oh, awesome, dude.
Yeah, when that happened, immediately we decided to do coffee cups that say an animation studio.
Just to poke fun at it. That's awesome.
We actually took the type and enlargement from the press release that is animation studio.
That's awesome.
So that was another thing. We realized that the way it should work is, if you're gonna burn the midnight oil, if you're going to, secrete blood, sweat, tears, all that stuff, the least you can do is say, we did it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't going to even be possible. So that's also another kind of nail in the coffin as far as we were concerned. Look, if you haven't done a series before, we haven't done a series before, if we haven't done a series before together,
right,
then come on, why, we don't need that. So that was another thing that was like, we should part our separate ways.
Well, that is MTV. As cool of a channel as they were back then, I think the true colors have kind of came out over the years, haven't they? I mean,
yeah. But again, we feel terrific because of all the things we've talked about, the place it holds in it having been done, the fact that there were, endless jobs for, a decade that came out of it, which is great.
Exactly.
And it kind of put New York on the map again, which is really nice because this is where animation started. This is, it deserves, and it's a completely different way of working. You talk to people who've worked in both places. They can talk to you in detail about, the difference between working in New York and the difference between working in California.
Do you have a favorite episode from the era that you worked on that stands out to you?
No, because I was so involved in the genesis of the whole animal.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And it goes back to talking to you about what is the most exciting part of doing what we do and what I do, which is the upfront stuff and trying to figure out how you're going to be able to pull this off. So no, I don't really have a favorite episode. It was also, what was really great is when we brought in Yvette Kaplan.
Oh, she's amazing.
And, she's a sweetheart, and she didn't start with the show initially, but it was great because she came in later and there was no baggage from the beginning of the process with her. So Mike and Yvette bonded. And once Yvette came in as the animation director, things started to go a little bit smoother because Mike felt more comfortable. And Mike's an amazing guy. He's just, especially if you look at everything that he's done, up to this point now.
Oh, flawless.
Just fantastic. The guy, my favorite Mike Judge cartoon is Milton.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
I think that also shows how really perceptive and how he really does listen and look at people.
Yeah.
Because his characters, and it transfers over to his live action stuff,
Yeah, everything is very character driven.
Really,
yes.
You really have people and characters that you understand because you've seen all these people before.
Absolutely. I mean, King of the Hill is a perfect example. I mean, as you said earlier, we've all known a Beavis and Butthead or Ben.
Example. It's just, it's all his first film.
Office Space?
Office Space. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest comedies of all time. And isn't that kind of based off of Milton in a sense?
It was really good. It was really good for him to have Yvette. And because the show had two existences. It had the existence at the studio here in White Plains, where all the animation was being worked on. And then it had its existence at MTV at 1515 Broadway, where all the scripts and all the storyboard meetings would take place. I'm trying to remember the other studio was something like CompuCell or Metrocell.
Yeah.
That was the other studio that did a couple of episodes in California on the first season.
And I'd actually like to there's two episodes that I always assumed you guys did. Sporting Goods, where they get jock straps, and True Crime, where they break into an ATM and get all the money. Now, these came after your era, but they were in your style. And also one of them starts out, they're burning a praying mantis or something, and it was edited like 2 airings after so that it looked like they were just battling the praying mantises. And I think over the years we've just assumed, well, the only way, because all the other scenes they cut when it came to stuff like that, but that one they actually reanimated. But they were in your style, but they were a little longer. So I've always wondered if you guys did those and maybe they were the last 2 you worked on, or maybe it's this other studio.
I'd have to review the actual master list.
Okay.
Do
you own all of those episodes?
What?
Do you own all of the episodes you worked on by chance?
I don't own anything.
No.
I might have some material, but I don't. I mean, if you use the word own, no, I don't.
Own as in do you have copies of them to watch?
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's what I meant.
I'd have to look. I have a feeling that some of the titling that you have or that you use is different from the original ones that I would have it listed as.
Yes, of course, yes.
Here, and but the other one that you mentioned doesn't sound familiar. But I can.
Which one sounded familiar to you?
The other one that you mentioned in tandem with True Crime. What was the other?
Oh, the one where they get jock straps.
Yes, Sporting Goods.
Yes,
or something.
That's right.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar, at least by that title. So I'd have to look up.
Oh, wow. That would be the one where they reanimated the scene. So I don't know. It's just always been, that's one of the obscure questions I'm going to throw at you there.
Yeah, but Metrocell was the other studio that was in.
And they were in America.
Yeah, in California.
Okay, gosh, it's boy, it'd be interesting.
There was no Canadian or European or Asian connection at all. This was all done in the States.
But then once it got to season 2 and they did the animation cells, that was all Korea, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember that the facility that we worked at a lot in New York, the tape house, they were handling the OCN, the negative that would come in from wherever, and they were cutting negative at the tape house in New York immediately after we stopped doing the animation. So that was kind of funny seeing negative and print of Beavis and Butthead.
Now I know Mr. Warburton worked on the show around this time with you as well, and he owns a few of the production drawings still. Honestly, about 10 of them. Another thing we discovered, well, there's 2 things we discovered. Yeah, this is the one you might remember me messaging you about. In the episode where they steal Tom Anderson's credit card, Good Credit, there is one shot where they're holding the credit card, and somebody in my Beavis group one day figured out that was owned by a TV production company and that it linked back to you. This was 4 years ago, and all our minds were just fucking blown. And you replied to my email, and you said that no one had ever brought that up before.
I had forgotten about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Warburton he was one of our first employees. So he started with us probably by the middle of 91. He was working in the studio as an assistant animator, production person. When Beavis started to bubble, I made Tom the production designer. Yes. So Tom did all the production design for Beavis. Everyone who worked in the studio at that point wore a lot of different hats. But he was primarily in production design, and by that time, the studio portion of the studio here had moved down to the third floor. We had a nice big open kind of loft space. What I do have also are a lot of the studio drawings and cartoons that were done by animators and production people of people in the studio.
Oh, cool.
While the production was going on. But it was a really great crew. We brought in a woman named Nancy Lane, who was the production manager. She was one of the people that went over to MTV from here.
Oh, okay.
Afterwards, I'd worked with Nancy, hired me on my very first job in the industry. So I'd known her for a long time, and everyone in New York knows Nancy. We did have probably 4 or 5 old timers who were working on the show, and it was nice because when I had said earlier, it was an overlap of the old technique and the new. It was a time where you didn't have to be proficient or knowledgeable about digital animation and all of the new stuff that came with it. You could still work as an old-time animator in traditional ways. And it was great because a lot of these people, outside of having to try to get them to unlearn a lot of the stuff that they had, spent their lives learning and perfecting, it was great having people like that on the crew, along with people, in some cases, almost like right out of school.
Yeah. Oh.
It was a really good. But Tom was an instrumental part of the studio, and also, he was the guy who helped design stuff that Mike hadn't designed.
Now, another thing that has been discovered just in the past few months from the same episode, the credit card one, good credit, was that in one frame of animation, Butthead is wearing a Guar shirt. Now, for those listening that don't know, Mr. Warburton went on to do Codename Kids Next Door, which had a full episode with Guar in it. Did you guys have anything to do with the music videos or the animation that went in or selecting them? Because I think a few of us have wondered since this discovery if Tom might be responsible for Guar becoming the boys' favorite band, because the Sega Genesis game that came out in 1994, I don't know if you ever played it, but it is all based off of the episodes you guys did. And you get to blow up the consistency and stuff like that, and you're supposed to be going to see Guar at the end. That's the focus of the game, is to get tickets to see Guar. So,
no, first of all, we had nothing to do with the integration, choice, selection, whatever, of music videos.
And they were just taking your animation and using it to match up for those, I take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't totally generic because stuff would happen in the storyboard meetings that, they were aware was coming in terms of the use of the videos. Did you ask Tom any of this?
I haven't really ever talked to him. He made a blog post quite a few years ago that had all these production drawings, and I've never gotten a reply from him. but unfortunately.
Okay. But no, we didn't have. That was the Viacom end.
Okay. I just wanted, because it seems like there was a big connection there, and obviously Tom is probably the one who threw in that frame of him wearing the Guar shirt, being that he's a diehard Guar fan. But that could have been storyboarder Mike. I guess there's no real answer, right? Yeah, that's okay. I figured there'd be a few I'd throw at you that would just be too out there. But
again, the stuff that probably would have been something that happened at the studio and was slid in for the stuff in California. Especially if there's only a frame, very few people are going to notice it. But there really was a 2-location approach to doing it in terms of the stuff that was happening at MTV offices in Manhattan and what's going on in the studio here.
Now, did you guys do the original title cards?
Yeah. I mean, just them giggling with the.
Oh no! The episode name title cards, laughing with the clouds behind them, because those were very different from what got used after your air as well. And in fact, on the VHS releases, they didn't use the ones you guys made. They made them look more like what the show became and whatnot. I love those original title cards, but what was strange is the first airings. The first episode wouldn't have a title card. It would just go from the intro music into the episode. But then the following episode would have a title card. Was that an error by chance, or do you remember this?
I think it's just a matter of the show not having a defined process yet.
Yeah, you guys really were winging it. If everyone was more or less winging it, it seems.
Yeah, no, there was no there wasn't anything carved in stone yet.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think a lot of us diehard fans have overthought for years, and of course it's just going to come down to that and whatnot. But it is a
lot of the same stuff like that would happen with the SNL cartoons we did. In that case, we didn't even realize we were embarking on doing a series of cartoons. It was like the first season of those. It wasn't even a season. It was a grouping of cartoons that we did.
Right.
I think if you look back at most series, the first few episodes aren't going to be up to speed in terms of
almost never.
Yeah. So that's to be expected.
Right. Do you own any production drawings or anything from the show?
We have a file of stuff that is left over. I haven't looked at it in so long because the way things worked with us is we would box up the stuff. It would go to California. They would scan it, and they wouldn't send us back the stuff. They would send it to MTV.
Bastards.
So they got all of the original artwork, and we were even given a stamp that we had to stamp all of the material saying, I think, property of MTV or something.
Yeah, because even the ones that I have from the Korea company, I'll have that stamp on them. Looking at it right now, so that would make sense. Are you a fan of the show in general?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Do you like what it became after your era, like the movie and whatnot, or do you prefer?
Well, I thought the movie was good, but I don't have I mean, I didn't understand why they tried to bring it back like 10 years ago, and then
2011.
Now you've got the whole thing now where it's supposed to be coming back
yes,
too.
it's coming back again.
Central, yeah. Don't quite understand how or if that's going to work. The one thing that probably makes me feel that it could be possible is that if Mike thinks it can happen,
right,
I can. That's all I got to go on.
Did you see it when it came back in 2011? Did you watch it at all?
I think I saw a couple of moments from it.
Yeah.
But,
It was good. I think most of us fans liked it. It was a little instantly dated because they would watch Jersey Shore instead of music videos and stuff like that. And now Jersey Shore is just so irrelevant that it just kind of feels like a time capsule that's older than it is already type deal. But yes, it is apparently coming back. And then
it seems like so much of it that made it so great was how jarring it was to see it.
Yes.
How fresh and new, and and there's been so much stuff under the bridge since 1993.
Well, yes. I mean, even because South Park is one of my favorite shows, and I still think South Park is great. But I think people not only have forgotten, but maybe it's not necessary to enjoy it anymore. But I feel like when South Park happened, it was the main joke was what if Peanuts swore? What if Charlie Brown swore and whatnot? It was kind of the initial shock value I got from it, but it kind of outlived that in a lot of sense and became something a lot more relevant than vulgar.
Yeah, that's their testament. I mean, that's a testament to its widespread.
Oh, absolutely.
The other thing I like about South Park is it's a wonderful example of understanding the baggage that comes with a type of animation that you do. Here's something that looks so harmless, so innocuous, so cute and gentle.
Yes, it's so cute.
No hostages, and it's just brilliant. And it's, again, here's another example of a technique that allows for it to be produced, cost effectively.
Yes.
And also adds to the content because it looks and moves and is the way it is.
I take it you've seen the 6 days to air documentary about how they do each episode, just a few days to air.
This was a while ago, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I love I was fortunate enough when I went to go see Book of Mormon.
Oh, I've seen it 3 times. Oh,
well, we saw it in previews, and we sat across the aisle from them as they were doing notes.
That's amazing.
The only drag was I wasn't able to completely watch the show because I was watching them watch the show.
Right.
And it was they're brilliant. I think they're brilliant also because they don't work in California, they don't work in New York. They're working, is it in Colorado?
They're pretty much like true punk rockers making a show.
And they had very good lawyers who advised them from the very beginning, and they're just a terrific package. I just think they're brilliant.
I know Mike gave them some advice. They've talked because Mike made a lot of mistakes in the beginning with Beavis and Butt-Head, just giving MTV the full thing. So I know that he had a sit down with them right when they got in and kind of gave them advice not to ever agree with just anyone because your show's becoming successful and stuff. So that's kind of in fact, I've even thought the South Park movie from '99 was kind of about the Beavis and Butt-Head controversy where the kids go and see the Terrence and Phillip movie. Kenny dies from lighting his fart on fire. And then the parents not wanting to blame themselves, so we go to war with Canada. So I feel like that movie was like a full circle on the 90s animation controversy. The fact it's my favorite movie of all time for that reason.
True, right.
What's that?
I think there's something there too. Exactly. I think inspiration is can't be ignored there at all.
What's the proudest thing you've done? I know it's not Beavis and Butt-Head.
I don't think there's any one thing. It has to do with having been able to do everything that we have done, been able to do it with Patrice, the fact that we've stayed small, we're still doing work 30 years later.
Hell yeah, you are.
And what's really terrific is when you read something, whether it's in an interview or on Facebook or whatever, where people who've worked at the studio truly appreciate what they were able to get from having worked here.
That's cool.
And we've had like 3 different kind of core groups and phases that we've gone through, and all of them were terrific. And so, yeah, there's no one thing. It's also nice when, let's say I'm at Comic-Con or I'm at a festival or whatever, and someone might come up to me and say something like, I came to something that you spoke at, and you talked about working with your wife, and here's my husband. We worked together, and we've made a go of it. And it had so much to do with the fact that you talked about that, and that was possible, because we never would have thought it was possible. That's so it's that kind of stuff that is in your wake that makes you feel like what you've been doing has been, worthwhile. So that's what's terrific.
That's freaking awesome, man. Honestly, thank you so much for doing this. I really, it's surreal. I hope I'm keeping it cool, but honestly, in my head here, I keep looking at my Beavis shit and then looking back at this and being like, wow, talk about a passion since I'm 5 years old, kind of still being here, even though they might be 2 of the dumbest characters ever created. So to sit here and talk.
You ever had a chance to talk with Mike?
Mike has talked to me briefly on Instagram, and he follows my collection page. I've talked to Christopher Brown quite a bit. He's going to be doing Christopher Brown. He was the head writer on the show. The only episode he wrote that you would have worked on was where they went to the military recruiter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that one. And he's going to be doing it. I'm hoping to get Yvette. That would be amazing. But yeah, I've gotten to talk to a few people from the show, and it's just because they seem to recognize that I've been obsessed with it. And so
you go to any animation festivals or anything like that, or have you in the past?
I would love to. I live in Silver Springs, New York, which is about an hour from Rochester and Buffalo, New York. So stuff like that doesn't necessarily come here. I would have to.
No, but you're near Ottawa.
A little bit, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best animation festival in the world.
Of course, I'd have to get like a, one of those green cards or whatever.
I don't know what the situation is now, but really. You should keep your eye on what's going on at Ottawa, because a lot of the people, I won't say a lot of people, certainly people that had involvement in Beavis, New York Animation, and so forth, they get up there.
Okay,
and,
right.
You could have and it's a very down-to-earth, militantly independent group that both puts on the festival and attends the festival.
Okay.
And it's been around since the 70s. And it's really, it's great. So you should, go online, Ottawa International Animation Festival, OIAF.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check out. Do you go to it? Do you attend it?
I would have gone this year, except it was a virtual event. I think of maybe in the past 30 years, I've gone 20 times.
Okay. Well, hell, yeah, I'll plan on going after the world, dies and comes back or whatever the fuck's happening. I'll definitely intend on going to one.
Yeah,
And hopefully I'll get to meet you. I'd love to shake your hand, man. Honestly, it's a freaking honor.
you ever make it down to the New York City area?
I have twice. I did music for years and played Brooklyn and Queens once or twice out there and whatnot. But no, I think it's a good 8 hours or so from me. So I haven't ever, oddly enough, gone out too much. Growing up, wanting to go to shows. Nowadays, you get lots of, well, not right now, but you get lots of shows and concerts that actually come to Buffalo and whatnot. But growing up, it seemed like everything missed here and went right to New York City. But, you're 14 and you can't get a ride there or anything like that. So once I started making music, I finally got to go out and just play.
What's the status of the train station there?
The train station?
Yeah, that beautiful old building that has been looming over the city for...
You talking about Buffalo?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's there.
Yeah, I think it's Buffalo. Buffalo was, definitely Buffalo. They have this beautiful old Art Deco train station that, for the most part, I think it's just been sitting abandoned for years.
Yeah, I think that if it's what I'm thinking, it's right next to a concert hall now or something like that. But I don't know, Buffalo. When's the last time you were actually out this way?
Probably it was taking the train through Buffalo from Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago or so. And my family, my mother grew up in Amsterdam near Schenectady.
Okay.
So I kind of know the area a little bit.
I can't even say I do too much. Like, I'm out in cornfield country, and it was like you'd go to the city once a year to fucking get, school clothes type thing. So, yeah. So until I became an adult, and I'm also the type, I've been to Buffalo 100 times now as an adult, and I just don't fucking, I don't seem to like absorb any knowledge unless it's related to Beavis and Butt-Head, I think. So.
Well, I'll look around and see what we have the next time I'm like in our storage place and see if.
Oh, that'd be amazing, dude. That would be so amazing to see that some of that, really. I don't have any production stuff from your Air the Show. I realized that it was hopeless when you replied to me in that email years ago, because I'm like, how come I could find animation cells from every era except the one you worked on? And I think one time there's a company called the Cricket Gallery, and they have, you're familiar, I take it. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yes, they have all the animation cells from all the Viacom, Nickelodeon of the 90s. And one day they put up, I think, one of the backgrounds from Babes Are Us, where they are in the bikinis out in the thing. And it was definitely an original background. And I messaged them, and they were like, oh, yeah, we put that up on accident. That's not for sale. And I was like, so close. But just to actually see that picture was pretty awesome.
A woman named Masako Kanayama did most of the backgrounds, and she's involved with ASIFA in New York. ASIFA is the animation guild.
Okay.
They're all over the world. They have ASIFA Hollywood, ASIFA Midwest, ASIFA East is the one in New York. And I think she's still working in the industry, but she did most of the backgrounds.
Those backgrounds are all amazing. There's something, because I draw Beavis and Butt-Head.
All the artwork.
What's that, buddy?
You got to wonder what happened to all the artwork from the first season.
Oh, my gosh. I know that Tom said that in his blog post about the ones he kept, that he pulled them out of the trash.
Yeah, but if he pulled them out of the trash, that probably means that they were either not used or they were kind of pre-production or
they
whatever.
Line up pretty frickin' perfectly with the screen captures. So if they weren't the ones used, I mean, they're identical still. He's got one of them. One from Stuart's house where they're sitting on Stuart's couch with Stuart in the middle, I thought was the one that stood out the most to me. What were you thinking when some of these ideas were thrown at you, like they're going to sniff the stove gas and then they're going to blow up the little kid's house who they were bullying, the whole episode, where you're just like, holy shit, how is this going to air?
If it had been a commercial, then I would have said, how the fuck is this going to air? But
okay,
because it was MTV, because it was Mike, because it was Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
It was, I had less of a reaction like that to Beavis than I did to some of the Saturday Night Live stuff. Because
I get that. I get it. Yes.
SNL is more of a mainstream network sort of thing. I was convinced one show that we did wasn't going to air.
And which was that?
It did air, but it only aired once. In fact, it didn't even make the feed to Los Angeles, but it resurrected later. It came,
oh my God.
Later.
What was this?
Conspiracy theory rock.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the one that looked like a Schoolhouse Rock, but it was all about network and media and so forth. And that was scary because in the cartoon, it gets yanked off the air.
That's right.
So when it actually got yanked off the air, it was and everyone from Bill Moyers to other places were talking about network censorship after that happened. Eventually, it came back and it wasn't a big problem. But yeah, Beavis was just so under the radar initially, and then once it hit. It was almost like it was its obligation to be as outrageous as possible.
Yes, it definitely seemed in those episodes like you guys were literally trying to get in trouble. For the time, 1993, I mean, it was just kind of groundbreaking that you guys were saying sucks. So, then to fucking, set a kid's house on fire and stuff like that in an episode, it's like, I don't know how much further you guys really could have went. But also I do kind of think that the controversy forced them to like take a step back and make the show more clever than just outrageous in a sense. I think your era is complete vulgarity in a sense where what the show became was two kids who would rather laugh at the idea of saying a swear word than actually say it. There was something more charming. I feel like your era captured the two kids in town that you were afraid to run into. And I know in my small town, I was definitely afraid to run into the two kids. One time I ran into them, they're just like chucking the railroad spikes off the bridge at cars and shit like that, and I feel like that's the Beavis and Butt-Head you worked on. And what it became.
I think Mike is I think Mike is an innately clever guy, and he's I don't know too many people that could have had as an influence over a show like Beavis and Butt-Head, like Mike did, because so much of it came out of him, came out of his experiences, and I think because he was instrumental in casting and choosing the writers, that the show was able to always have his kind of stamp on it.
Well, there is a style to Mike Judge, and even those early ones, it still is his style. It's just almost completely different characters in a sense from, I mean, if we compare, the episode where they blow up Stuart's kitchen to the movie, it's vastly different, obviously. But I, as possibly one of the biggest fans of the show in the world, I can't tell you which I like better still. They're just both so important to me. So I love what you did. I appreciate the hell that you guys were crazy enough to take on the job, even if you did get out of it.
There wasn't anyone left after us. I don't think there was anyone else they could go to.
Hey, man, that's all right. That's how a lot of guys get married.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
But let's
take a look around, see if I can dig up something and let you know what's going on.
Well, that would be surreal, dude. I guess we'll end it on this note because it's not too much more I could think of. And I appreciate your time. I don't even know how long it's been and whatnot. And yeah, you rule. Man, thanks for kicking ass, Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Talk to you down the line.
Absolutely, buddy.